Hi, I'm Nina Bailey and I'm the European Design Lead at Formica Group. In this video, I just want to share with you what we're introducing into our new spec collection in terms of wood grains, and also how we've tapped into the various trends and themes coming through, just to share with you what's new really. So the first thing I want to talk about is something I'm calling wood with wood. So we're seeing designers become much sort of bolder with their choice of wood, and they're becoming much more aware of how you can actually start to use wood grains and their different colours as a sort of colour palette like you would with the solid colours. So starting to pair these woods together, whereas traditionally we would have seen in a space you'd sort of just want to flow with one wood grain. And now we're sort of seeing them combining and people starting to really understand how you can get a sort of really cosy and warm environment by doing that. So we're actually introducing 4 new walnuts into our range. We've got the refined walnut, the formal walnut, which are both the same sort of layout of wood and in 2 very different tones. And then we've also got the Peruca walnut and the Satina walnut, which I would say are a lot more sort of pared back in their structure, quite sort of linear in terms of a walnut layout, and they're both quite greyed off and muted tones, which make them really usable. But altogether, I really see these 4 coming together to create really sort of beautiful environments. So for things like hospitality environments, I think they can just really start to create a really sort of warm feel to a space. So that's one example. And then we've also introduced a range of cedar woods, which are much more sort of bold, quite high in contrast, quite striking really, but still very usable. So we've got a blonde cedar, a mocha cedar and a noir cedar. So all sort of variations and tones of that wood species, but in the same layout. So again, chance to combine them within one space, and it's just a real nice way of starting to use woods as that colour palette. We've also introduced 3 new ash woods as well in 3 different colourways. So we've got our pale ash, our aged ash and our dark ash. Again, same structures, different colours. And we're just seeing ash become a much more sort of trending wood generally. So it's a really good chance for us to up that within our collection. The next theme I want to talk about is something I'm calling local species. So with that whole trend of outdoors in, biophilic design that we've seen, I think it's even more prevalent now as we sort of are coming out of this pandemic, and we're much more sort of aware of spending more time in our homes, wanting to connect to the outside world, but not just any outside world, our immediate outside world. So we're wanting to reflect what is naturally around us. In the sense of that, we're seeing designers and consumers moving towards what would be in their natural environments in terms of wood species. So things like oaks, ash, walnut, elm are topping the list really, as they're wanting to get that immediate natural surrounding into their space. So that's quite an interesting one. And linking to what we've done, we've actually developed 2 new elm woods, which are really soft, really pared back, very usable. So we've got the sund elm and the fjord elm, both in that very sort of muted and pale colour. They're really beautiful. And then obviously the oak, which we refer to at Formica as being sort of local hero of Europe woods really. And so we couldn't not develop anything for that section. So we've developed a sort of variety of things that are much more rustic. They're saw cut marks. So we've got things like our new carpentry oak and our quercus beige. We've also got much more linear, minimal wood grains as well. So we're introducing something called evergreen oak and a satin oak, which are much more sort of linear and sort of simple without the cathedraling and too much detailing. We're really seeing that we need both of these types of varieties within our wood grains. So we need the sort of more rustic and we need the more minimal appeal to the different sort of styles and looks that a project might need. The next thing I want to talk about is something I'm calling light and dark. So there has been generally around Europe a real shift towards that sort of Japandi style in design. So in reflection of that, we're seeing people starting to use really dark wood grains combined with really light wood grains. So we wanted to make sure in our collection that we had a real versatility in terms of some new really dark woods, some sort of like almost burnt black looking woods, and then also these really paled and refined sort of looking woods as well, so that there's that chance to combine them and really get that sort of Japandi style through a space. So that's something we're really seeing, and with that we've got a new variety of really pale tones in terms of our blonde cedar, which I've already mentioned, our pale ash, and then also something we're introducing is our Trumpso maple. And maple, I think, is a really important one for us as well, because we're sort of seeing that in the real wood of maple, over time we know that it starts to get this really sort of bright yellow tone to it, which almost makes it quite unsustainable because people start to replace it much more often. Whereas with our new Trumpso maple, we've really tried to develop that perfect sort of lasting colour of the maple woods. It's a very natural, very beautiful. So that's something we're really proud of as well. So that's our Trumpso maple. The next thing I want to talk about is greyed woods. So obviously, like, the most popular colours that we always see being used in environments are greys. They're always sort of like the base for everything. And again, it's sort of like tapping into that idea of would sort of play a part in that colour palette as well. So we're wanting to make sure we've got some really grey looking woods that can fit in with those grey tones. So we've developed some really sort of warm grey woods, what I would say are quite natural, almost desaturated in colour, but still sort of very natural looking. So we've got things like our Belvedere beech, and we've got a flute oak. So they're very sort of warm and natural. And then we've also developed something that's quite unnatural in colour, so almost like a blue-grey, cool wood grain, which is our Ventura oak. So really sort of classic oak layout, but with this real cool grey colour. So it's something that you probably wouldn't actually get, or you wouldn't get in nature, but it looks really beautiful, and it's just showing what we can do and how we can have that variety in colour through our applications. So a really nice one to look at as well, and it just combines perfectly with those sort of cooler grey palettes. And then lastly, I want to talk about large scale, sort of architectural scale wood grains. So something that we're seeing is people wanting to be able to use these much larger scale woods on sort of walls and panels and have that sort of much grander scale of look. So we really wanted to look into that, and we've developed a series of 5 birch ply woods, something that I think is so unique to us at Formica. There's not quite anything else like this out there in the laminate world, and it's something we're really proud of. So we've developed these 5 colours. We've even got within that selection a blue wood and a green wood, so adding actual colour into our wood grain designs as well. So we've got the dark sky, which is the blue, and the green slate, which is the green. And I think they're just going to be so playful and so fun for sort of education sectors, office sectors. It's really a great way of introducing colour into a space through a natural material. We've also got the raw birch ply, which is that sort of natural colour that you would expect from the birch ply wood. And then we've got a whitewash, which is, as it says, a whitewashed colour. It's almost got tints of like a warm pink coming through. It's really beautiful. And we've got the black birch ply as well, which is very much dark on dark. It's so dark that the grain is quite subtle. So that brings me to the end of the introduction to our new wood grains in our spec collection. I hope you found this video useful and that you can go on to enjoy using our new wood grains. So that's it from me, and thanks for listening and watching. Take care. Bye.